right, good afternoon. As usual, I'll go over a few different things we've got going in the city and then take any questions you might have. Had a great trip to Tallahassee last week to talk about a litany of things, and certainly with a new administration make introductions and put a face with a name with a lot of the key departments at the state of Florida, and that I felt was really productive. Folks at DEO, at FDOT, and all of their leadership, DEM, every state acronym that you can come up with. We were there for 2 days and spent a lot of time talking about some of our Triumph asks like American Magic, as well as some of the DEO SALI infrastructure grant projects and our priorities that we'll be talking about a little bit later this week. So anyway, had a great trip down there that was we felt was really productive, and also kind of did a temperature check with in regards to Amtrak and what the how some of our leadership and legislators felt about us pursuing that, and we left with a very positive feeling about continuing to move forward. So all of that was very good. A few different news and notes. City of Pensacola, our summer youth intern program. We just posted, I believe, Casey, correct, on social media about the summer youth intern program, and we're offering paid internship opportunities for youth ages 16 to 24, and they're available in a variety of city departments, and obviously promote career development and also providing paid on-the-job work experience. The applications will be due Friday, May 19th, but my goal, I had a couple internships when I was coming through college, and people start to make decisions in that springtime, March, April, about what they're going to do in the summer. So I appreciate our team getting that together a little bit sooner than we did last year to make sure that we gauge as much interest as possible from the youth in our area. So you can learn more and you can apply at cityofpensacola.com. The great news from Parks and Rec on the Children's Trust grant that we've been awarded, about $1.7 million from the Children's Trust to support after-school programs for local youth at city community centers. And so that'll allow us to offer some after-school programs to our city children at no cost, whose families qualify for free and reduced lunch, with a goal of ensuring equal access for low-income families. So great news and awesome work by Tanya and Adrian and our Parks and Rec team for getting that across the finish line. And it falls into what we've talked about all along, is that even though we may not run the school district, education is our job, and this is a perfect example of what we were talking about, that the city can do more to be an active participant in our children's education for City of Pensacola residents. So we're excited about that. Next neighborhood cleanup is this Saturday in the East Pensacola Heights area and surrounding neighborhoods. And you can visit cityofpensacola.com to see if your street is in there. But if you're somewhere in the East Pensacola Heights area, that'll happen on Saturday. Our first, another reminder, our burial ground study for Miraflores Park. That committee meeting will be on February 27th, Monday. That's 6 days from now, Monday the 27th, 3:30 to 5:30. And it'll be in this room, City Hall on the second floor. Also excited, before we take any questions, is we talked a lot about the grants office, and my joke with our new folks was that they're going to be the most popular people in the building because you know how to write grants and get money into your departments. I'm sure they're very, very popular today, but both our senior grant writer, Joelle Holland, and our grants and special projects coordinator, Kevin Boyer, are having their first day today. So that was something that we've talked about since before swearing in, that this was a priority for us, and especially after our visit to Tallahassee and hearing all of the programs coming through. This is going to be a vital, vital need for us, not only for the city of Pensacola, but it helps us put the people in the best positions to be successful. And that means, we've got amazing people running departments, and if they can focus more on operations and all the day-to-day things that are important to our citizens, and we've got an awesome team that, does the grant work for a living and can work with them, I think that's just a win all the way around. So So Joel Hollins, our senior grant writer, he's got about 10 years of experience in grant procurement, and he's most recently worked as the grant management coordinator for the Escambia County Public School System. And Kevin Boyer has over 15 years of experience in leadership, public information, and media management, and he most recently worked for the City of Milton as the executive grants assistant. So excited to have both of those guys on board, and really looking forward to what that office can do for us as we start to see all of this federal and state money coming down. So those are my updates. Any questions?
Yeah, I guess, do you have any, what's the latest with Amtrak?
Yeah, so Erica is now jumping right in and taking over that in our economic development office. We had a great call on Friday with about 30 people from all different sectors, from the company that owns the rail from basically Escambia Bay to Jacksonville, to Amtrak, to the Federal Rail Administration who administers this corridor ID grant, to leadership across the panhandle, certainly many folks on our team. And I was really encouraged by that, really just to say, hey guys, we're here to help take the baton, and let's just move it another inch forward, another foot forward, and that's what we're going to do. Is again, I've mentioned before, that first step is the FRA's Corridor ID Grant Program, $500,000. That is due, and I imagine our grants team will be very involved with Erica to get that done. That deadline is March 23rd. But as with anything, to be able to have some of the FRA folks on that call to give us a little bit of guidance, as well as folks from the Southern Rail Commission who have gotten a lot of these across the finish line, really felt like we had the right people in the virtual room, so to speak, but we had the right people in place to make sure that we're taking really putting our best foot forward and trying to get that done. So between that, and again, I met with a lot of different folks in different departments, including FDOT, and there were people from FDOT on the call as well, and asked them, hey, this is something we're looking into. Any blind spots we have? Anything we should be concerned about? Do we, what is the temperature of our state government in terms of, knowing that at some point there will be some kind of subsidy that'll have to take place, even though the federal government's doing the significant portion of that, and it would seem to be all positive. So that was good news coming out of that trip, and so we'll continue to move forward with Amtrak, and we'll. If we get to a point, as we said on the call, if we get to a point where it doesn't make sense for the city of Pensacola, then that's okay. But this is the time to look at it now, with all of this federal money coming down, and the federal government looking to expand service. You really, significantly on their dime. This is the time for us to look at it. And if we end up not doing it, we end up not doing it. But we don't want to look back and say, what if? We don't want to say, man, it would have been nice 2 years ago if we had seen if it was something that could work for us. So we're excited about that, the prospect of that, and we'll continue to see how it progresses.
You said you went to Tallahassee in the legislative session's coming up. Are there any bills that you're concerned about that may negatively impact the city? I know there's one out there that would allow businesses to sue if there's an ordinance passed that hurts their business, or change city elections to partisan elections. Is there any?
What I tell you is, in terms of our investment of time over there, we didn't spend really any time on that side of things. We really is more focused on City of Pensacola advocacy and mentioning our priorities and things that we could help enhance our community. I'm familiar with the home rule conversation. Obviously, as you can imagine, someone in my position will have concerns about that. But I can't really speak at a granular level about that at this point. My focus has really been primarily on again, advocacy efforts, getting our administration familiar with the leadership in Tallahassee, both at the legislative level but also at the staff level. And I'm a big believer. When I was a journalist, I had said the same thing. I like to call not only when we need something, And so this trip to Tallahassee was not a call necessarily that we need something. We may have asked for a couple things, but the spirit of it was that we want to say, hey, we're here. We want to be proactive in making sure that Pensacola is represented here. help us build that roadmap. And so I would say, yeah, I've not been as focused on that piece of the work being done in Tallahassee at this point.
What can you tell us about the group that's making a presentation about the affordable housing to the city council?
Just Pensacola, yes. I have met with them a couple of times, and I'm pretty familiar with what their proposal is, and really I appreciate them for their effort of this isn't just a half-baked idea that they're bringing up. This is there's been a lot of thought into their data and what they feel like the city of Pensacola needs. So I'm very appreciative of that, to not just say we've got a problem, but to help identify a solution. Now, as with anything, now you got to focus on, well, how do you get it done? And the price tag that they're talking about, north of $4 million annually for 10 years, that's a heavy lift. Now, doesn't mean that's not something that we can consider, and there's a lot of, again, nuance to that. Does some of that value come in the form of tax abatements versus cash that goes into an account? Those are conversations we've asked, but what we all agree on is that we've got a significant issue, and it's something that does need to be addressed. So I look forward to their presentation. Again, I'm pretty familiar with it, but their presentation to council and to hear that conversation and that feedback and where it goes, because whether what we do with this group in particular or as a whole is a joint discussion, both as administration and as a council. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation and kind of seeing where it goes.
I saw that the Streamline Boats website is no longer online. Have you heard from that company at all? I know they have a deadline of March at the port. What's the latest?
I have not personally heard from them at this point. I want to say perhaps they had outreach to Amy Miller, our city administrator, at some point. I don't really want to say when, maybe in the last few weeks. But no, I have not heard from them personally, and as far as we know, they have till the middle of March to have a CO on the building, and we honor the lease that we signed. So I would say that's where we're at for now.
If they can't meet that, what have you decided what the city's?
We're weighing our options. Obviously, we've got to have a conversation with them, but we've had internal conversations. But at the end of the day, again, it's kind of like the Maritime Park questioning from last week. Fair questions. What does the future look like when someone controls a building with a lease? There's not a whole lot we can do. And so it's we don't want to spin our wheels too much, looking at what ifs and what could happen if they aren't there. We focus on what our agreement is with them, and if that doesn't stay in place, then we'll pivot and go from there. So so sure, with any lease that the city has at any property, if there's a chance it might come to an end, you're thinking a step or two ahead, but we've taken no action on that at this point. We're going to honor what they've got and go from there.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Do y'all have any program in light of what our Surgeon General, Dr. Joseph Latipo? Have y'all got any? Because he made a statement last week, actually, about a press conference, said that there was a 1,700% increase in the VAERS report after the release of the COVID-19 vaccine. The reporting of life-threatening conditions increased over 4,400%. Have y'all got any program to where y'all are keeping track of how many vaccine-injured city employees y'all have, considering that y'all paid them $120, 759 employees to get the vaccine?
Well, let me first say, y'all, I can only speak to the last 90 days.
So,
yeah. So, and second, I'm focused on a lot of things at the city outside of things that are happening at the federal level. So not trying to be evasive to you. I can't speak to decisions that were made prior to this administration. I'm not aware of us tracking anything in any realm of that discussion at this point.
That's all I wanted to know is if y'all were tracking any injuries, or if y'all had, if this nurse Angela Finn, who obviously gave some of these vaccines, if they are tracking them at all, if they came in with minors, with major, if they've had to take, if they've become, unable to work.
Right.
There has to be some sort of record of that.
Not that I can't speak to that. Not that I'm aware of. That's been.
Could you form a task force for it, for us, the people?
I've got about 55 more task force to work on before I get to that one. No, as I said, I'm focused on local issues. I mean, I'm focused on getting the city of Pensacola where it needs to be. I'm not binding our administration or anyone else down to what's happening with things like that at the federal level right now.
It is a health issue, but I'm going to let you off of it today.
Appreciate that. Appreciate the favor.
Have you heard any updates on the Grand Hotel? What people at the Grand Hotel?
Not that I could speak to publicly. What I've heard there is some, that there's some interest in perhaps getting that thing, off mothballs and activated, which is a good step forward. What's interesting about, if you look at a lot of our hotel data and our visitor data for the city of Pensacola, we've been able, when you see the records that we're breaking as a community, a lot of that really since Hurricane Sally has been through a lack of inventory, whether the ADR or the average daily rate is going up, and that's helping, sustain or increase bed tax, but you're seeing occupancy rates go up. So we've got, I tell you, as a community, we've got a great problem, which is a city in demand. I would say as a microcosm to that within the lodging and hospitality, and you see a lot of the projects now being discussed. Of course, you've got the East Garden District project moving along. There's other conversations with lodging that help us increase supply. I think that's a very valuable thing, and again, the nice part is our data supports that additional growth, and it allows us to have more visitors here, and certainly makes life easier on the people who come visit the residents here. And so I would say positive steps forward. Certainly, not our news to share at this point, but I have heard that we could be progressing towards an opportunity to get that back online, back in the inventory for our hotel market since Sally. Anything else? I would say, Larry, are you sure there's nothing else? But then I don't want to. I'll get you after. All right, thanks, guys.